Intolerance of Yourself and Others, Deb Goldberg and Dr. Lynyetta G. Willis. We become intolerant when we are triggered by seeing aspects of ourselves being reflected back to us. These aspects hide in our shadow side, and typically they are parts of ourselves that we don't like. Many times they bring up old wounds that we would rather have buried. Intolerance is also passed down generationally through programming. The intolerance comes from fears which typically create anxiety and leads to judgment and other negative feelings. We are complex, diverse beings, and the crux of the problem is not knowing how to reconcile our divinity and humanity.
Angel Heart Radio programs should not be used to replace your legal or medical advice. Welcome everyone to Angel Heart Radio. You are our focus. We want you to know that you matter in the world and that you're important to the world. We're here to remind you of just how valuable and needed you are right now. Help us to help others. If you like what you hear, tell your friends, post, tweet, pin, let everyone know how amazing Angel Heart Radio is. So again, welcome to Angel Heart Radio. Powered by love, Angel Heart Radio is sponsored by AngelLight777.com.
Welcome everyone to Angel Heart Radio. I'm your host, Deb Goldberg. It brings me great pleasure to be here with you today, and it's an honor to serve you in the highest way that I can by bringing you messages of divine love and blessings for your life. You are dearly loved, cherished, and blessed. We have a great show for you tonight, but I want to tell you a little bit about our call-in phone number and the other podcast hosts. Our phone number is 347-202-0232, 347-202-0232. We would love to have some callers, so please give us a ring. The other podcast host would be the founder of Angel Heart Radio, who is Anaya Joy Halili, and her show airs on Fridays, every other Friday, 8 o'clock p.m. USA time Eastern, and Saturday, 10 o'clock a.m. Queensland time. You can also reach Anaya at AngelLight777.com. And the other podcast host is Annette McCoy, and her show is aired on Tuesdays, 8 o'clock p.m. USA Eastern Time, and Wednesdays, 10 o'clock a.m. Queensland Time. If you're interested in knowing more about me or working with me or my books, you can find them at debbiengoldberg.com or on Amazon under A Divinely Ordered Life. So we have an awesome topic and our awesome co-host who is here. Trying to get her on a monthly schedule, but it's Dr. Lynyetta G. Willis, who's a psychologist and author of the children's book My Forgotten Self. She's also the creator of the Elemental Living Parenting and Personal Leadership Program, and Lynyetta is an awesome person and brings so much light to our show, and so I'm always so happy to spend time with her. So welcome, Lynyetta.
Oh, hello, Deb. Thank you for that amazing introduction. Ditto. I love spending time with you as well. Love it when I can get on.
I know. And, this is actually going to be my last show for a little while, so it's so nice to have you here because I'm in the process of moving from Florida to Pennsylvania. And so I asked Anaya to just run some old shows, until I get settled and can figure out what I'm doing there. And so, I probably won't have any shows for about 2 or 3 weeks, figuring on, how to get this, how to fit this in now into this move. So I'm so happy that you're here.
I know. I'm honored to be here on your last show before your break and your big move. Big things are happening. That's awesome.
big things are happening, and it falls right into this discussion we're going to have tonight about intolerance.
Yes. Kick us off, Deb.
Yeah. So, transition brings all kinds of feelings and situations going on. And, one of the things that I've learned is that to have tolerance for myself sometimes is really difficult because I didn't really learn how to do that, to cope with all the different aspects of myself wanting to show themselves at the same time. Because of all the different things that are happening in my life right now. And it's such an opportunity to really understand your whole complexity and to bring love to yourself and to learn how to be tolerant with yourself. For a long time, I didn't really have any frustration tolerance at all. If I got frustrated, it would really, I would start to get very upset and angry because I didn't know how to deal with the frustration of anything like that was going on within me. If I was having too many things, emotions, feelings going on at the same time, thoughts. And it is quite a journey to start learning that. How's that affected you in any ways, learning how to be tolerant with yourself?
Oh my goodness. I would always say if I talk to my friends like I talk to myself sometimes, I wouldn't have very many friends. I mean, it was one of those things where, and I've gotten so much better about it over the years because there are parts of me that refuse to be talked to that way. So I had to straighten some things up because there was it felt like an internal battle. And so it's just, things that I would show compassion to other people for, like I was about to say being late, but no, I've let that go. That's just me sometimes. But, it's something like if I made a mistake or if I didn't do something as well as I thought I should, if I was talking to my child, they'd be like, oh, everybody makes mistakes. Oh, it's a part of life. And what are the things you did right? But with myself, my biggest tagline that I would say to myself was stupid, stupid, stupid. Like, that's what I would say, stupid, stupid, stupid. Like it was just this constant power of three thing that I would do because, failure was not an option. Imperfection was not okay, and it was hard. It was hard not only on my mind, but on my body and my awareness of spirit. It just was not something that I could always keep a handle on, and it affected me physically, socially, psychologically. It wreaked havoc, being cruel to myself. In some ways, and I mean, this might sound a little dramatic, I don't mean it to, but it fit in some cases. In some ways, it was almost like being in an abusive relationship with yourself.
Exactly.
Constantly, like, speeding up on 1 minute, everything's fine, and the next minute, stupid, stupid, stupid. You're like, whoa, where did that come from? What just happened? So, I mean, it's really something that, if we don't get a grasp on it, if we don't recognize it and get to a point where we turn towards those parts of us that are being that way and really, I mean, the idea is often let's shut them down. But the problem with that is when we shut those parts down, they just come back stronger. There's that old adage that says, when you bury your feelings, you bury them alive. And nothing likes to be buried alive. And so they come back with a vengeance. And now you've just shadowed something else. So your shadow box is like overflowing. It's busting at the seams now. So really the way that I've learned to deal with a lot of that is counterintuitive. which is really turning to them and leaning into those parts of myself that say stupid times 3. You know, like, wow, okay, what's that about? Where's that coming from? You know, and really getting more curious and trying to cultivate more understanding and compassion for them, which isn't easy because nobody wants to, like, lean into something that's like throwing daggers and spitting and kicking and what?
That's a great description. It's a great description of the work that needs to be done, of accepting these different parts of us. And I thought when you brought up, you know, that you're having this battle in within yourself, is the crux of the whole problem, isn't it? Is that we're having this constant conflict, and I call it the difference between our divinity and our humanity, and that we don't want to act a certain way, we don't want to speak a certain way, we don't want to come across this way, but there's parts of us that are angry, there's parts of us that are a bully, there's parts of us that are a victim. There's all of this dichotomy living inside of us, and it's I call it not knowing how to reconcile our divinity and our humanity. You know that you're living together for this experience, and how do we live in harmony? How do we live in peace within ourselves, having all of this diversity?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
it's hard. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's a conflict that we're all dealing with, and we do become very intolerant to because we're impatient, and we all believe it's not supposed to feel that way. I should be feeling peaceful all the time, but so when I get something other than that, I don't know how to deal with it. You know, what is going on with me, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And we're taught in society that there are good feelings and there are bad feelings, and that the bad feelings are not allowed and the good feelings are allowed. And so we do learn to, put those bad feelings in the naughty chair or lock them up in the basement. But feelings are feelings. They're not good, bad, or indifferent. They're always, tell my clients, feelings are just signposts. They just give us insight into what direction we're moving in. That's it. And, they don't always feel great, but they're not necessarily bad, and they pass. They pass. They move on. And as we pass that signpost, we move on to a different feeling. But in the moment, they can be so overwhelming that we, for protective purposes, we do whatever we can to avoid ever feeling that way again. Which just kicks up more stuff and makes us more intolerant. So when that feeling even starts to rear like a piece of its head, we're like, oh no, back down in the basement. You're not allowed. Get back down there. And then we turn up the happy music louder and we pretend like it's not there, even though it's banging on the door trying to come up, and we're like, no. Turn the music up louder.
Right. And then some random time out it comes when you're not expecting it, and it's like, where did that come from? It came out of the basement.
Exactly. And then when it comes out, it's got huge muscles now because it's spending all that time banging on the door. So now it's all buff and it refuses to be pushed back down. So we often end up, taking it out on other people, usually people who are not as powerful as we are, like our children or people that are predictable, maybe like our partners, So it's one of those things where it just sort of like build out of us at the seams, and then later we end up feeling guilt and regret and shame because of how we treated ourselves and the people that we care about. The cycle continues, when the truth is that it's not about changing the people around us. It's not even always about changing our circumstances, because sometimes we just can't. Really, what it's about, it's really an inside job. It's really an inside job. It's really about, you can even navigate and negotiate with that part of you in the basement. Like, all right, if I open this door, you cannot come out kicking and screaming and, with a flamethrower burning everybody to bits. You can't do that.
Right. Right.
We got to do this in a calm, safe way, in a calm, safe place, or it's not going to happen. So a lot of times it's navigating and negotiating with those parts inside of us, and that's a lot of what I do with the people I work with. It's like, all right, let's not run from it. Let's turn to it. Let's learn about it. This is a gift. It's good information. What is it that this part is trying to protect you from, and how do we deal with that?
Right. Yeah, and it's so important because the more we push it down, we're creating more energy, and it's usually fear. Intolerance is all based on fear of not understanding why we have all of this going on inside of us, and or that I'm not supposed to feel this way, or am I crazy because I have all of these aspects that I don't feel good about, and so you're constantly in judgment of yourself, of I shouldn't be this, I shouldn't be that, or this shouldn't be happening, or la la la, and then that gets turned outside to other people, and then we as hard as we judge ourselves, then we're also judging other people, and this is just really coming from a place of misunderstanding that there's nothing wrong with us and there's nothing wrong with other people, but we have this rule book of how we're deciding what is okay about ourselves and what is not, and then we turn that outside. But we've all been also programmed to believe certain things about all kinds of stuff, not just other people. It's about the world at large and everything that goes on in it, right?
Absolutely. And it can get us to those trigger points a lot quicker. The assumptions that we hold about ourselves, the world, other people. Absolutely. You said at the beginning that with this transition, a lot of things are coming up for you. Are you having this experience with like all the little kids like running up the basement stairs, or?
Yeah, all different, and then they turn on each other, like maybe there's a younger, very sensitive part of me, and then there's a teenager, so there's this bully victim going on in between, between these different aspects of ourselves, whether you want to call them wounded parts or younger parts of you. And because there's, I think this bully-victim relationship is so prominent in our world, inside ourselves, and then it gets manifested outside of ourselves. It's like trying to keep ourselves in line. Like, I don't know how to deal with all of this stuff inside of me. So, like you said, I'm going to put on a happy face and ignore it, and then we're in denial. And the more that you said, we're in denial, then it's coming to visit us a little bit more often, and then all of the aspects are getting involved. And so during this transition with so many different situational things happening, and some of it is just grief. I'm leaving a place that I really love, and so that's part of it. So I have an aspect of myself, even as a young, like a year old, that I was here at that time. I was in Florida when I was at that age, and I didn't want to leave it. So it's almost like I'm coming against that part of me at the same time while I'm dealing with it as an adult. Because, we talk about that there's no such thing as time, that this is eternal, and so you're bumping into all these old parts of yourself. And yeah, and so, um, there's just so things from my past that keep getting brought up again, but it's all there for us to look at, and it's there for us to learn how to love these parts of ourselves and start developing tolerance and compassion and grace for ourselves. But nobody
Yeah.
taught me
Mhm.
nobody taught me how to do those things until I started doing spiritual work and spent a lot of time with God and Jesus, and that's all you get is learning. You're getting constant grace for yourself, and
Mm.
and then learning how to apply that to yourself. Now we have a caller on the line,
Hmm.
Lynyetta, and I
Cool.
believe it's probably Bob. So I'm going to open his mic. Am I right? Is this
Ah,
Bob?
ah, yes,
Hi,
yes, it
Bob.
is, and quite. G'day, ladies. It's another beautiful day in
Hi.
paradise.
It isn't it?
Yeah, and I've been up most of the night, sharing on other shows. I just love the way people are waking up, and there are more forums for like-hearted people to get together. I love your topic, and I'm just looking at the title, Intolerance of Yourself. And well, I'm 66 now, and I am content with me. And it hasn't always been that way. I started serious personal growth work in 1990, and the most powerful work I did was just healing the wounds of my childhood, all those messages that I got from my parents and society about, basically, the world's a scary place and I'm unlovable and it's all my fault. Anyway, I went back and healed all that stuff. And I also healed myself of chronic depression, which just turned out to be a spiritual wake-up call. It was my soul just slapping me saying, get out of your mind and follow your heart and live your truth. Now, I set my life purpose to simply find my own truth. And how do I know what my truth is? Well, for me, my truth is anything that resonates with my heart is my truth. And so now I'm at this place in my life where I take full responsibility for my life. My life is unfolding exactly in alignment with the command that I've given the universe, so I don't have to worry about the future. And I navigate now through my life by feeling. Like when I was a kid, Mum had all the anger, so I never knew how to deal with anger. But anger is a very empowering energy. I was one of these volcanoes. Every time I got upset by something, instead of speaking my truth in the moment, I'd swallow it and put it in the pressure cooker. And then sometime down the track, 6 months later, somebody would say something slightly innocuous, and they get the whole 6 months of this stuff that I put in the pressure cooker. It's like Krakatoa, it's like this. And now, feelings for me are so vital. I'm always in touch with my body and the messages that the feelings are sending to me. And so, anger doesn't have to be abusive, especially in relationships, if expressed in the moment. Like, if I say to Deb, hey Deb darling, when you squeeze the toothpaste in the middle of the tube, it really pisses me off. In future, can you roll it up from the end? Now, I haven't told you to do anything, and I haven't abused you. I've just asked for what I want. Now, you can either respond to that by rolling the toothpaste up from the end, or you can totally ignore my request. But the important thing is I've got that feeling out in the moment. It's gone, it's discharged, and without any damage. And then obviously the ideal solution is we each have our own tube of toothpaste. So for me, all are equal, all are unique, and all are sovereign, and everything else just flows from that. Now, I'm known as being blunt, which is probably why I love Australia so much. But for me, I think it was Shakespeare said, the greatest love I can give to any man is to simply share my truth. And what I find really sad about modern culture is this predisposition to political correctness. Now, I'm here to share my truth with you. That's the greatest love I can give to you. I'm not here to say nice, warm things so that you can feel fluffy and safe. And so for me, political correctness is the epitome of codependent behavior and is the absolute antithesis of the right of free speech. Now, I had to get ruthlessly honest with myself and get out of denial, all those things I didn't want to look at. And it's been a good training program because now I'm ruthlessly honest with everybody. And all I'm doing for me in a non-abusive format is sharing my truth. Now, your response to my truth is your issue, not mine. I'm just sharing data, real data. So that's where I am. And what other people think of me is none of my business. And my life is none of theirs. So...
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good way. Yeah, it is we're all actually sharing our own story with each other, our own truth, and really our own truths really don't have a lot to do with the other person. It's your own reality, and so that's why I guess it doesn't, like you're only responsible for what you do. You're not responsible for what other people do. And you're here for your journey to explore all of that and express yourself. Hello?
Yeah,
I think we want to do it in a kind way if we can, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing, doing it from a place of love. Because I agree, not everything. There are sometimes if I really love you and all I'm giving you is fairies and rainbows, that I'm not really honoring our relationship and the trust in our relationship. Now, if I come at you with a flamethrower, to tell you that truth, I'm also not honoring, the trust in our relationship because I'm not taking into account where you may be in that moment.
Yeah. Well,
so
Deb, what I would like
I think
to
there's
say,
a way to do it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Deb, what I would like to say is that I love you enough and feel safe enough in that love to share my complete truth with you. And there is no good or bad, nice or nasty. It is just truth. So, like for me, there is no good or bad or right or wrong. There's
it's
just
not.
Experience.
I agree. I agree.
I choose how I engage with those experiences. But and life is supposed to be simple, and I can't get my life any simpler than this. To share what's in my heart. What you do with it is your choice.
Right. I agree. I had
this is pretty profound, eh?
Yeah, it is. I had a discussion with God about communication, and what he's told me is that he's communicating through everybody all of the time. Your voice is his voice, and so that you're not to worry about, if you have faith and know that God is in control, and have faith that what you're hearing is what you're supposed to be hearing or speaking, because there is no right or wrong. And we don't always know when we're being a mirror for somebody or an opportunity to create compassion. So there should be no judging of yourself in the moment of what is coming through you. I believe that as we keep going higher in our consciousness, that we also do shift into being able to express ourselves in a different way.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. But one thing, I just go back to my little platform of all are equal, all are unique, and all are sovereign. And like everybody's on their own journey, and everybody will find their own truth, which will be unique to them. I know my truth is unique to me, and it is only valid for me. So when people talk about God, that really doesn't resonate with me. My reality is more like I have a connection to source energy, but it works for me, and I think that's the answer. As every unique individual has to find what works for them. I have an amazing connection to source energy, but because of my upbringing and my programming, every time somebody mentions the word God, it brings up all these weird images of a guy that sits up in the clouds and judges us and doesn't know how to handle money. So yeah, I am content in my reality, and I'm walking my own path. And I think the best thing I can do now, and I've been doing it for a while now, is to simply let my own light shine, because that's what attracts people. Being centered and being wholesome and being solid and powerful, people find attractive. Even though I'm not perfect, I smoke too much, I drink too much, I exercise about as much as a koala bear, but I'm content with me, and that is priceless. I'm content with me. And so that's how I was sharing my message, just by engaging eyeball to eyeball with people in my community, and just telling my story. Because at the end of the day, all I have is my story. That's all I have. Everything else is worthless. So thank you, ladies, very much for letting me share.
Thank you.
And the more the merrier. The Mayans had it nailed. The Mayans predicted this. It's hundreds and hundreds of years ago. The Mayans predicted that we are now entering the age of integrity, and the last age we went through was the age of power. So now in this transition, integrity is overcoming power, and wherever I look around the world, more and more people are waking up, realizing their own strength, their own integrity, and the world is changing, and the beast is dying. And by the beast, I mean, the governments and banks and all that, they're becoming more frantic as they realize their empire is crumbling and their days are over. So this is a great time to be alive, to witness our ascension to what we were born to be, loving, cooperative human beings, working together, not against each other. So, okay, wow, this is deep this morning, isn't it? Probably too much coffee. Thanks, ladies.
You're welcome. Thanks
you.
for sharing, Bob. Have a great day.
No worries. Enjoy your house food.
Bye.
It's a new adventure.
Thanks.
Hey.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Calls in.
yeah, and really to be completely okay and happy with who you are eludes a lot of people. And I know at times it still eludes me, because I can go back in the basement and say, like, this shouldn't be, rather than saying it's all good, it's okay. I've started calling all those aspects that hide down in the basement minions. Trying
the ones on that movie are pretty cute, so.
Yes,
the Despicable Me movie. There are those minions.
Yeah. So I'm trying to add some lightness or fun to it, and saying, okay, the minions are acting up again, and what am I gonna do right now? When they when
Yeah.
they when they all came out at the same time, and I'm like, what is going on? It's
Mhm.
Yes, trying to embrace all of that and know that you're okay.
Well,
And,
it
and
was. Oh, go ahead.
no, that's all right.
Mm-mm.
Go ahead.
Oh no, what I was going to say was that when you were talking, what came up for me was an image of a daylight basement. A basement where there's windows and doors. You can have like the
Mhm.
complete basement where it's completely dark, or the one where you can get in. Well, they have to be windows, but the ones where you can walk in and out. And I think what that's saying is, in order to be completely accepting of ourselves, the basement has to be a daylight basement. It
Mm.
has to be a basement where light is allowed in, big L light,
Mhm.
to flood the space and connect with every aspect of who we are. But I think when we shadow those parts of ourselves, ultimately what we do is we say, you are not worthy of the light
Mhm.
to those parts.
Mhm.
You are not allowed to have light. In
Mhm.
order to be in the light, if you come into the light, that sets up the risk that other people might see you and will be
Mhm.
unacceptable. We won't be
Mhm.
enough. We'll be failures.
Mhm.
We're bad, so you need to stay in that basement
Mhm.
and stay out of the light,
Mhm.
because the light on you will shame all of us.
Yeah.
And, until we can say every aspect, every inch, every nook, every cranny of who we are is absolutely 100% worthy of light,
Mhm.
I'm not sure that we can be completely accepting.
Mhm.
Now, can we deem that to be the case? Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
I think there have been many who have done it. I think, Jesus, I think, is a really good archetype or not archetype, but a really good being who is able to do that,
Mhm.
from the readings in the scriptures. Buddha was probably really great at that, but not that I don't think it's possible. I absolutely think it is. I also think it is a lot of work. It is a
Mhm.
lot of work, and it takes a lot of energy to say, my shame is worthy of light. My
Mhm.
fear is worthy of light. My
Mhm.
failures are worthy of light. Like, that is, wow. But it's
Mhm.
true.
It is
Because when we shed
totally
light
true.
on them, we realize there is no shame, there is no failure. It's all in the
Mhm.
shadows. It's what I call the jeans on the chair phenomenon, where I used to talk about this a lot, where you have the little kid who's like in the bed, and they look in the corner, and there's this big scary monster, and they're freaking out, and they almost pee on themselves because they don't want to get up and go to the bathroom because the monster's going to eat them, and they finally
Mhm.
get up and run over to the wall and flip on the light and turn around and realize, oh, it's just jeans on a chair. And
Uh-huh.
I think that's what it is about all these things, the shame and
Right.
the failure and all this stuff. It's like, oh, there's jeans on a chair. I'm whole.
Mm.
I'm enough. You
Mhm.
know? Okay. But you got to let that light in first. And that's hard to
Ex-
do sometimes.
yeah. I love the way that you just described that. The light in the basement and the jeans on the chair. I think that is so important for people um to know that what you're saying is that everything that's hiding down in the basement we believe to be um bad or wrong or negative or shameful, guilt, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And I know for me, um in doing the work of going in the basement and saying, all right, let's see who's down here. And Bob calls source love, I guess, creator, and that's exactly what I call God, is source love. So if I am going in the basement, I have to take God with me, because that's where the light's coming from, and that light that comes, it helps me understand what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, why it's happening, and that it doesn't, that you don't need to keep believing that there's something wrong with these parts of you. You know, whether we're acting out, or we're crying, or whatever the case might be, that as we spend more time bringing light to all of these aspects hiding in the basement, we keep going higher in our divine consciousness. And then you have your divine self, which is God, basically, is then bringing love and care as like a parent to all these parts of us. You know, you're bringing the loving, compassionate parent rather than the intolerant parent because of fear and anxiety, and then turning against yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's funny, as you were talking. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You got it, baby.
No, you're funny. Well, as you were talking, I got another image, which was, it's really weird. I can't always describe my images. They're very weird. But
they're awesome.
What I think it's depicting is the idea that we don't even necessarily have to bring light into the basement. Light is already there. But when we refuse to descend into the basement ourselves, you know, we don't realize that. So those parts of us that we put in the basement, they absolutely are worthy of light. They themselves are light, you know, but we don't acknowledge that. So it's almost like when we go into the basement or we look at those parts, we have really dark glasses on, and we say, "See, I'm looking at you. There's no light in you." But the truth of the matter is, we are looking at them through a story lens. We're looking at those parts of ourselves through a lens that is not true. Right? So I look at that part and I say, "You are shame. You are a failure. You are disgusting. I don't like you. Nobody likes you. You're worthless." Right? All of those things I'm saying, it's because I'm looking at this part through a false lens. But if I really took off those lenses, I would see that that part of me is endowed with the same, all of our parts, they're endowed with the same light, you know, but it's just the stories that we tell and the shame and the burdens that they carry that makes it seem like that's not the case. But when we use them that way, it can help us to bring some compassion.
Yes, because you're really just talking about younger parts of yourself that, you know, so we're talking about feelings, which are a little different than thoughts. I mean, we have lots of faulty thinking, and much of them do belong to little younger parts of ourselves, that we bought into things, we believe things because of the story that you're talking about, and so, you know, the story keeps growing as our journey keeps growing, and it's really is, and I think what you said is really important, is that those parts of us are lovable, just like you are, like your adult self. These parts of you are just immature. They're just immature little selves, you know, whether you know, that are young and don't understand, and you know, learning to not be a bully to ourselves is very important. And I you do this work in therapy with people, and you always have spirit with you. So
Mhm.
whether you're not in somebody's therapy office or with a friend or somebody you feel comfortable with to engage in some of this work, you always have spirit with you that is there to guide you in all of that work. So
Mhm.
you just don't want to. You, it's a lot easier not to go there by yourself and have
Oh
some
yeah.
spiritual guidance that's going to bring you some truth as to what is actually going on, because we don't always, like you
Mhm.
said, we're still wearing those story glasses of the and
Mhm.
making up more stories about ourselves that are not true.
So true, so true. And when we take those glasses off, then we're looking at those parts of ourselves through the eyes of God or Source or, whatever you want to call it. That's when we're seeing that big T truth of what it really is, and I can almost see it. I could totally see it like turning into like this little baby, this cute little kid.
Mhm.
With the glasses on, it's this big, scary, ugly, three-headed
Uh-huh.
dragon. And you take the glasses off, and it's this tiny little cute toddler, like laughing
Uh-huh.
and clapping.
Right.
And you're
Right.
like, what was that?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
It's
so,
powerful.
it is very powerful because, we say, okay, we're divine. So if we're divine, why do we have all of these aspects of ourselves, these human aspects?
Mm.
But it is part of the experience and of being alive, and well, whatever you want to call this illusion, is having a dream, or um, it is that there's this mixture going on that we don't understand, and it is very difficult to sort that out unless you have some spiritual truth helping you figure out this stuff.
Mhm.
That there's,
Right.
so it's like saying, well, I shouldn't have these things because, you know, they they're not right. They don't belong to me. But they are with you. They're traveling with you, and it does not change your divinity. It doesn't change who you are. And I'm just working on learning how to just be myself, like Bob was talking about, is just being myself and being able to speak my truth, because I was always afraid to speak my truth, that somebody would find me unacceptable in what I'm
Mhm.
how I'm communicating, how I'm acting in the moment, and those are all stories from my upbringing. And so it was easier not to create conflict and just tell people, agree with them, and
Mhm.
sometimes I just wouldn't have my own opinion, because it didn't matter anyway what I thought, because that's the way I grew up. So it just didn't matter what I thought. Nobody wanted to hear what I thought. And then I
Mhm.
didn't know what I thought, and now I'm being called to, what is it that I believe? What is it that I feel? What is it? What is my truth? So so it has been quite a journey in letting all parts happen as they happen, and like God reminded me today, is I am speaking through you no matter what you're doing. And
Mm.
God, basically, you're perfect in every single moment, in every single year, wherever you are, and you are being used to help yourself and help others, um, in just learning how to be you. And
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
right, and that you're being at the same time you're being polished, right? We're being polished how to be the best self in all moments. When you are allowing yourself to be yourself, you get to witness yourself and say, well, I think I would prefer not to say that or act that way. That's not in my highest. It doesn't feel good or whatever. I prefer when I handle something this way. But if you don't get to witness yourself that way, you don't understand the polishing that needs to happen. You understand what I'm talking about?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, one of my biggest things because I do a lot of family life coaching, so I work with the individuals and families, and I talk a lot about using our relationships with those who are closest to us as part of our spiritual practice. And when we look at our relationships and how we engage other people as a spiritual practice, a big part of that is becoming aware, you know, of how we're responding and how we're reacting to other people. And one thing I always say is those who bring our stuff up are here to help us wake up. Right? So when we find ourselves in those situations where we're like, what in the world? You know, it's like, ooh, here's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity to grow and learn, to evolve, you know, which I think is what you're getting at, you know, to polish in many ways so that we can evolve into more or towards more of, or to a deeper awareness, I guess I should say, of who we really are. Right? And it's not always easy, but, you know, it's especially with kids. Like kids, they are such a gift. They really are in so many ways. And sometimes they feel like that flaming gift that, you know, is left on doorsteps sometimes because they can trigger us so much. And we're just like, you know, but in reality, they are the perfect mirrors. I mean, they don't have too many smudges on them yet, you know, and they help us to see ourselves, you know, and they help to bring up, I mean, all relationships do. That's why I think relationships are like the ultimate spiritual practice, because they will always bring up something within us that we need to pay attention to. And not always bad things. You know, you might be in a relationship, or unhelpful or unskillful things, but you might be in a relationship with someone and you're engaging them, and then they awaken a part of you that you never knew existed. And you're like, oh my God, I never knew that was there. I have this amazing superpower and it's been dormant. And now you've engaged with this person and they've mirrored it back to you, and they've helped you awaken this amazing aspect of who you are. And now you fall in love with them, you want to marry and make babies or whatever, I don't know. But the point is that, you know, it's not always like, you know, deep, dark stuff. Sometimes it's great stuff, but the basics of it is that we're all giving each other gifts and opportunities to awaken even more. And to realize and to become into a deeper awareness of who we truly are and the power and the beauty that is us, right? If we allow it.
If we allow it, yeah. And that's really what this journey is about, is exploring ourselves and finding ourselves and realizing that you are divine, with all of the things that we thought were complicated within us, all of these aspects within us. And it's such a beautiful thing. And it could be difficult, it could be painful in those moments, but like you said, they're all opportunities to see yourself, and not to judge yourself. And then as you're doing that, then you can say, well, I don't have to judge somebody else, because all I'm seeing is the same behaviors inside of me, but I'm not showing them. I'm stuffing them. I'm keeping them in the closet with the bolt on the door, and this person's expressing them. And that's why we get so mad when we see it. We don't realize that we're seeing an aspect of ourselves. And then as you keep growing, then you start to understand that we are all the same, and we all have the same fears from one degree to another. We all have the same worries. We all have the same fears. And we all have this dichotomy living inside of us. And then when you can see past all of that, then we get to see each one of us as divine, as, well, I would call it the face of God. Each person is the face of God. And or I also like to look at other people as my counterpart, that I'm seeing aspects of myself in somebody else, whether it would be things that I deem are negative, or whether it's the divine part. I am seeing a counterpart in everybody, because they're speaking my truth, they're acting my truth, they're doing on the outside what I'm thinking on the inside, or behaving to myself on the inside. So it really is, it's a wonderful journey if you allow yourself to do it. And of course my message is always, God doesn't want you to do it alone. You don't have to do it alone. There's spirit there all the time helping you uncover all of these things within yourself, and allowing love to flow through you, divine love to flow through you as you embark on going down in the basement.
Yeah.
So,
and it's funny too. I always like to say this part because everybody thinks that the basement is filled with big scary monsters, but that's not always true. I had a client, and I'll never forget her because I resonated so much with this, because it was part of my story too. But her child would trigger her because she had, I work a lot with the elements, so she had a very airy child who would always be, flipping around, doing all this, just up and playing it, and just wouldn't sit down and be good. And the more I worked with her, she realized that growing up, play was not allowed in her house. Play was something that children did. And even though she was a child, she wasn't seen as a child. Being childlike wasn't okay. So what she did was she stuffed her playfulness into the basement. And when her son reflected it back to her, that critical parent came out of, stop doing that. Why are you doing that? Sit down. Why are you always up? Why are you always da-da-da-da-da-da-da? Realize, and then through our work, she realized, I've put this playful part of me in the basement. So part of the homework that she had for me was to set aside time to color. She always used to love to color, and she also went out and swung on the swings, in her yard, and just allowed that aspect of her to emerge that she had placed so deep. So it's really about allowing other people and things that we see that is intolerable, like we started out talking about, realizing that those could be things that they could run the spectrum of the types of things so we should always pay attention when we find ourselves getting judgmental or angry or annoyed or frustrated, and ask, whoa, what's that about? Because there's a wealth of information there that can help us to grow, because those who bring our stuff up are here to help us wake up.
Definitely. Most definitely. And those are the people that we get angry at, but they're actually bringing us such an opportunity to explore ourselves. But nobody's taught us that. So, that's what you figure out along the way, that it is actually a gift. So, yeah. So believe it or not, we are down to 15 seconds. And again, had an awesome show. So, Lynyetta, why don't you tell people how to get in touch with you?
Yes, you could go to my website, drlwillis.com. That's D-R-L as in ladybug, WILLIS.com. And you could sign up for a free consultation if you want to chat or send me an email.
That's awesome. And I just want to thank you for being here. And it is a privilege having you on. And I just love talking with you. And I love all your images and your insight and your love and your warmth and your light. And so I'm just very happy that you're here. And hopefully in the future you'll be on some more too.
Oh, ditto. Thank you, Deb. And many wishes and blessings with all your transitions. Keep me updated.
Well, I will. Thank you. So for the next at least 2 weeks, if not more, the rest of the shows will be reruns of other shows that I have done, so I can concentrate on getting settled. When in doubt, never underestimate the power of prayer. You are being listened to and heard throughout the universe, and it always responds with infinite and eternal love. Remember to go inside and listen through your heart for the whispers of heaven. I love you, and God bless you.
You've been listening to another fabulous program on Angel Heart Radio. Our goal is to remind you of how much you matter in the world, and to let you know that we appreciate who you are in the world. You can check out who's on, when we're on, and who our guests are at angelheartradio.com. Everything is there. It's all just one click away. Angel Heart Radio programs are powerful tools to help you in your life and your life experience. They are not intended, nor should they, be used to replace your medical or legal advice. The views expressed by hosts, co-hosts, callers, guests, and associates should not be construed as advice from Angel Heart Radio.